Hello, this is Josh Bycer from GameWisdom.com. Hope you enjoy this video. Hello everybody, welcome to another week of Game Wisdom Live. Of course, we're streaming this on Twitch under GW Bycer for those of you watching this recording. Well, it's been one of those very interesting weeks. Fortunately, no new Patreon. Oh, one second, that's of course Twitch being weird there. There you go. It's been another, well, that's another perfect capper for this week then. Between my fire alarm going off while I was doing a recording yesterday, and just general trying to get back out of vacation mode. It's definitely been an interesting week. Like I said, we haven't unfortunately had any new Patreon donations, but we're certainly once again keep rising up on YouTube. Now just over 1,070 at the time of this recording. Unfortunately, James could not make it this week. His computer seems to be under the weather. Hopefully it will be fixed by next week. But I was able to get a backup guest. So join me as, I guess, relief co-host this week. Please welcome from Indie Voyage, Robert Leach.
Hey everybody, thanks a lot for having me, Josh.
It's great to have you back on, Rob. Now, for those of you listening, Rob is also having a very interesting time as we're doing this stream.
Yes, indeed.
He is unfortunately stuck right now on a freeway out of gas. So we were certainly making do this week with everything we got.
Yeah, I apologize for any traffic noises that are coming through my phone here.
And I'm hoping that the fire alarm doesn't go off again anytime soon tonight, because that would just be perfect. Maybe the snow will knock out power, and we'll have to do a cast by candlelight. Alright, but we're going to keep things pretty brief this week. Again, everyone is getting back into work mode now that the holidays and New Year's are behind us. For me, it means I have to get back to work on some of my presentations. I want to be reaching out, trying to get back in touch with those libraries this week. Hopefully get some responses, and I'll let you guys know when any more dates have been confirmed. But for you, Rob, how are things going in your neck of the woods?
Well, apart from this, things are going pretty good. Not too bad at all.
Let me raise that. Oh, there we go. So, with Indie Voyage, are you guys working on any new games or publishing anything new?
Yeah, actually, we're just announcing this new game that we're going to be putting through a Kickstarter sometime later in the year. It's called Messenger by a studio called AVCV Games out of Los Angeles. We've been talking to them for a couple of months now, and it's a pretty interesting game. It's a top-down shooter with a bit of a twist. You actually control a satellite who is defending a mech-style robot on its way to deliver a message, hence Messenger. So the shooter part is actually not the subject on the screen itself shooting around. It's just you as this unseen entity shooting downwards and defending against various things on the screen.
And you say you're planning on doing the Kickstarter later this year?
Yeah, we're not quite sure if it'll be either before or just after summer, but definitely look for it towards the end of Q2, beginning of end of Q3 areas of the year.
I think it's going to be interesting. Again, like we've been talking about Kickstarter. I know we've been talking about it on the podcast a few times over 2016, but I'm curious to see how the video game landscape is going to be for Kickstarter and crowdfunding projects into 2017 now. Yeah,
it's the landscape has been constantly shifting. This last year alone, except for the last 2 years, has also been just in a constant shift. But with all the content coming out lately, it's ridiculous.
And I know there's a lot of discussions regarding, again, DLC, early access, stuff like that. And of course, every year we'll always have like those same kind of trends we'll be keeping an eye on.
Mm-hmm.
Now, actually, just before we started streaming, I was trying to find kind of news or interesting things I wanted to bring up, and I just remembered something that I was reading on Polygon just before. They were talking about like this, keep in line with Kickstarter. There's a board game that has just broken the, I guess, record for most amount of funding for like a video game. Let me see. It is. Let me pull up the campaign. Looks like it has over $9 million in pledges.
Wow.
According to the Polygon article. It's a game called Kingdom Death Monster. And it's definitely an interesting market in terms of like board games with Kickstarters. That's been one that's definitely, I think, flourished thanks to crowdfunding, just because of a lot of the costs and things that go into making a tabletop game.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, a board game is kind of ridiculous for that kind of money.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a strange market to begin with, and for like $9 million, like I don't know how many board game designers even make a living off of it in the entire world, let alone making that much money off a thing. Give me one moment here.
Alright, well, you're doing
Hi.
that.
Oh, I'm waiting for gas, so it'll be. I already had someone coming. Somebody's helping you? I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, so sorry. A good Samaritan stopped by and was just checking how I'm doing, but sorry about that. Another interesting addition to your podcast, Josh.
This sounds like the beginning of a horror movie right here. Like all of a sudden, I'm going to hear something like a strange noise coming from outside your car.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So anyway, what I was saying, the board games industry is just crazy. When I was in Los Angeles, I was, speaking with a lot of board game designers and whatnot. It's certainly not on the level of that, but people who've made pretty large-scale war games and people dabbling in board game design, and even publishers, small-time publishers in the area, and the difficulty in getting noticed on things like Board Game Geek and things like that is really difficult unless you're like a Reiner Knizia or a Steve Jackson, names that are relatively well known in the market. But that kind of blows me away. Who's the designer of this game? And
I'm actually on their Kickstarter right now. Let's see. Does it even have a special name? I think the only name that's coming up is Kingdom Death as the maker of it. So they were, oh my goodness, they were only asking for $100,000, and they have made just over 9.7 million as of right now.
Crazy.
And there's still 44 hours to go, literally from as we're streaming this.
That is amazing.
Goodness. I'm kind of surprised that the tabletop market is still really flourishing on Kickstarter, because I've heard of other Kickstarter projects in terms of tabletop games that have gone way above their asking price. It seems like that market is really still going strong.
It is, and there's an interesting kind of market out there of cafes that specialize in board games popping up all around the country, and I just think that there's a bit of a kind of a mania with unique niche board games out there. Certainly at a lot of even major bookstores, they have an entire board game section, and they're getting just better and better and more well-rounded in terms of games that they're putting out there, as opposed to the games of yesteryear that you'd see in a Target, like your party games like Pictionary and Trivial Pursuit and Monopoly and the various Monopoly types that are out there. So it's kind of an exciting time to be a board game fan, but I didn't realize that it could get to this level.
Yeah. Right now, as we're doing, I'm just scanning their Kickstarter page. Again, it's just surprising. It surprises me just how well it's done. Again, for those of you who haven't followed me in the past, I'm not a board game guy. I've never been able to have people over to really get into it, so that's been one genre that has kind of escaped my eye for the longest of time. So it's kind of hard for me to see this and go, is this a good board game? Is this a bad one? I'm looking at the miniatures are going for, looks like pretty like detailed. There's some very gratuitous figurines, to say the least, on here. Like stuff that I don't think I could put a screenshot up here for, or I may get in trouble with Twitch.
That's interesting.
But yeah, like, oh my goodness, I'm just looking at like all the stuff that this comes with. And again, like for me, I have no idea if this is considered, too much, not enough. But sheesh, I'm just, again, like I think this now holds the record for like most amount of money from Kickstarter. Looks like, let me see if there's anything in the updates for it. Like they've gone over, I think they've ran out of things to offer at this point in terms of stretch goals.
That's amazing. I never would have thought a board game would break any kind of record like that. That's so I'm just gonna have to. That's the first thing I'm gonna do when I get home is just look at that. That's just impressive.
Yeah. Hi, El Gordo. Thanks for coming on for the Twitch. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. Like they have like pin-up pictures, like some of like the figurines that they've shown, like, or that was featured in the Polygon article, definitely more on the like disturbing or very gratuitous side of things. I'm just wondering, like, is like sex sells enough for $9 million though?
That is weird. Like it's something in board games I've not really seen before. I mean, I'm gonna have to check out what you're talking about, but there aren't many games that are that graphic, especially sexually. Certainly, there's zombies, and in wargaming, there's battles and whatnot, and very violent themes. But generally speaking, the sexual component of it is fairly tame, and apparently until now. And apparently, there's a huge demand for it. So who knew?
Yeah. What was I about to say? Oh yeah, and speaking about like games I've like never have gotten into, the Warhammer series has been one that has also just completely escaped me. I have never touched a Warhammer figurine in my entire life, and I know that may dock me some hardcore gamer cred by admitting that.
Well, it's strange. Warhammer is one of those games. I mean, it's so big it has its own store, franchise, where you go in and it's just all things Warhammer. But amongst board game players that I've certainly worked with in the past and played with, Warhammer tends to be kind of that's those guys thing. It's kind of the if you're a Warhammer gamer, you tend to do that kind of game all the time. And if you play board games, you don't really get into Warhammer. But wargaming in general is kind of a very niche audience with World War II themed games and certainly like Civil War and older themed games, but generally huge scale, large table, oftentimes even much larger scale and taking up a room. But certainly games that take hours and hours and hours, if not days, to complete.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting about how one of like the bigger trends of like video games in general has been a way to streamline some of that complexity down for a more generalized audience. Like I've heard rumors, or I've heard people for years saying they would love like a Warhammer computer game, essentially, like a computer to handle like the storing of the miniatures, stuff like that, just so you don't need to keep all this stuff around. But
got it. Yeah.
But I know like that will probably hurt them in terms of money, because of course those figurines, I'm sure, are a very big deal. Much like, we could say akin to like Magic the Gathering cards, and just about any other like major like tabletop hobby.
Well, I mean, they have computer versions of the Warhammer universe, like Dawn of War, but in terms of the figurines, I mean, figurine-based video games is pretty big right now and has been for about 5 years. Like Disney's gotten into the market, and certainly I believe like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon have something. I mean, I'm not as versed in that particular environment, but having a collectible figurine with some kind of recognizable data attached to it that you can then plug into your game, it doesn't necessarily need to be a very common thing. It can even be a rare item that you use in your game to participate in someone else's game.
Yeah, and the Toys to Life genre has certainly been having some interesting times. I know last year we saw Disney Infinity drop out of the market, which now just leaves Skylanders, Lego, and the Amiibos.
But
that kind of like we were just saying, Rob, that does make me wonder, like, if there's like any other like brand that could probably really make use of Toys to Life. I would certainly think like Warhammer or something along those lines would certainly eat things up. There was a rumor, I heard this like a year or so ago, that Nintendo was planning on doing, or they wanted to do like an amiibo Pokemon line. So all the Pokemon they have in amiibo form. I have no idea they're still doing that, but that would be like another like easy win, I would think, for Toys to Life.
Yeah, that seems like it would be a pretty solid contribution to that particular area.
Right now, I'm just looking at like the different like Warhammer figurines, and again, I'm just thinking there is no way I would have the room for that in my house. It's I barely have enough room for video games, let alone entire figurines and tables to hold all this stuff on.
Yeah, and board games in general tend to take up a lot of space. I mean, I have a relatively modest collection of like 20 or so board games, and it takes up like an entire bookshelf. Unlike, video games, which nowadays takes up nothing. But, with console games, it takes up, one shelf, if that.
And it's been one of like the great things about the digital distribution market. I mean, I have over 1,000 games, I think, at this point on Steam. Imagine if I had those in CD form around here.
Yeah. Exactly.
And it's kind of weird. Like, it's one of the things that we've sort of had to make that concession about with digital distribution, but it has, I think, certainly helped making a lot easier to get these games because it takes space out of the equation.
Yes. Yeah, the space component, like, I thought things would go more and more towards digital always, but I know, just like in music, there are folks, and I'm not one of these, but certainly audiophiles who just love the physical record.
The vinyl.
And that kind of thing. And yeah, vinyl with a very nice record player system. And I feel like the same is going to be true with games moving forward, where people really like to have that physical component. Maybe not so much in electronic games, but in kind of a board game format where you have to be in the same room as someone else, and you have to be moving around physical components. I mean, there's a certain feeling and camaraderie you get when you're playing board games with people that you just, even with a network and all that stuff, you don't necessarily get online.
Yeah. A few friends of mine were telling about this game, Tabletop Simulator. Have you heard that one on Steam, Rob? Uh-oh. Did we lose Rob? Testing? Uh-oh. Oh no, this is just what we were fearing. Oh my goodness. Rob, are you there? Oh no. Oh wait. Oh no, I lost Rob. Oh, wait, he's back. You there, Rob?
Hello, yeah, I dropped, I apologize.
That's okay. I thought I was just saying that this is the horror situation I was just describing a few minutes ago.
Yep.
So what I was saying, I was wait, are you still there, Rob? Uh-oh. Oh, goodness. This is like the perfect capper to this week. Oh, no. At least he's not stuck out in the snow. Is it still snowing out here while I'm waiting for Rob? Yep, it's coming down quite hard here on the East Coast. Alright, while I wait for Rob, hopefully, to get back on, I was just looking on Games Workshop site. This is literally the first time I'm looking at their site, and my mind is sort of boggling at the moment, looking at like stuff like there's like figurine sets for like $170. I saw one for $695. And again, for like, and they sell the paint you can use and all the kits for doing stuff like that. And again, as someone who has zero experience with the tabletop market, this stuff, it's just not clicking in my head about it. Let me see, what's the Warhammer 40K? Oh, and that's right, there's two different Warhammers. There's the old ones, and then there's the Space Marines, Gene Stealer, stuff like that. Oh my goodness, there's one for $749. Yeah.
All right, I'm back. That was the tow truck guy called, so I had to take it.
No problem. Are you
Apologies.
still good?
I am still good.
Okay. What I was just saying was, I was looking on the Warhammer site for the first time as someone who has like no experience with it whatsoever, and my mind is just shocked at seeing like some of these prices. Like there's like a set for like $750. There's one for like $135. 165 for 30 Marines and 3 drop pods. I don't even know how drop pods work because it's a tabletop game. That's one of the things that's like, wait a minute, what's going on here? So,
well, I know one of the biggest pleasures of collecting Warhammer is the painting of the figurines. That's an art form unto itself, and I know that's a huge component of that particular game.
Yeah, I can tell you right now, I do not have the patience for that or the steady hands.
I'm with you.
The most complicated thing I've ever done along those lines was like there was the anime Gundam Wing back in the day, like the giant Japanese robots, and they had like those model kits that you could put together. And I used to like put like those Gundam Wing models together.
Yeah,
can't like do anything with them though, because the second you move them, like the whole arm comes off. But it was still a lot of fun, like building my own little Gundam army. Yeah. But yeesh, again, like it is just fascinating to like look at this stuff. Like for like someone like me, it just looks like a bunch of figurines. But again, I'm going to bet that there's people who probably put down $750 for like one of these like massive sets.
Oh, easy, yeah. It's a collectible, you know.
And again, like what you were talking about earlier, like with the people like who tend to like favor these kinds of markets, again, like board games and tabletop games, it's pretty much, I bet, like one game or one franchise, and that's it. Like if you're playing Warhammer, chances are you're not going to play another tabletop game. Much like the people who are, you know, high-level Magic the Gathering players probably aren't also spending money on Hearthstone anytime soon. Although they might, depending upon like how invested they are in the whole genre.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, there's certainly not as much crossover as there could be, and I imagine it's also like Dota and League of Legends. You got that. You got these specialties, and you either like one or you like another. Although I'm sure there are people who love to do both. But you know, that's kind of how the world works, I guess.
They actually sell the cutters and the sculpting sets on the Warhammer site. Wow. I'm sorry, but I have to chuckle at it. That is just some amazing dedication there.
Yes, it absolutely is.
Hi, Ethron. Oh, thanks for reminding me, Gordo. One other thing that I was asking about just before you got kicked off, Rob. Have you heard of the game Tabletop Simulator?
Yes, I have.
That's what a few of my friends were talking to me about like a few months ago. Like, for those of you who don't know what it is, essentially is a way to basically play board games on your computer. It uses a physics model, so you know you pick up pieces and you move them around like you would in real life. You can roll die, pick tokens up, flip cards over, stuff like that. And we actually played a board game, or I'm sorry, actually a tabletop game. This was, I think, do we consider, is Settlers of Catan considered a tabletop game?
Yeah, I mean, I would consider any board game to be a tabletop game.
Okay, so then this would be my second time ever playing a tabletop game. I can't tell you the name of the game. I don't even remember that much, but it was certainly a lot of fun. And what we're talking about in terms of accessibility, like you would think that more tabletop designers would like jump on the idea of basically this idea of like a virtual tabletop. Now, as you were saying a few minutes ago, especially with like Warhammer and stuff like that, there's of course that tactile feel and the collectability aspect of the miniatures. But for people like me, who again, like, there's no way I could ever field stuff like this in my house, it would be a lot easier to have just like a virtual board game or a virtual simulator of these things. And even like to like really deliver the 1-2 punch, you could tie it to the Toys to Life mark. You know, get the figurines and you could enter them in, and they'll be on your virtual collection as well.
Yeah, and I mean one benefit, and this is the same thing I got with Dungeons and Dragons and RPGs in general, is you have your group of people that you play with all the time, and then everybody kind of scatters to the four winds, and finding a way to get back to that online is a really cool thing to do, and you get to keep in touch with all your old buddies. I know a good friend of mine is actually making a VR version of. I wouldn't say it's just like tabletop game, but he's making a board game that you play in VR with people. So VR is certainly a way to go with that too. And it's fascinating to me that board games are going to translate to the virtual world and emulate the rolling of dice and moving of pieces as if you were physically there.
Yeah, and that could be another really good place for VR in terms of providing that kind of accessibility. What we were talking about a few minutes ago with the RPG genre, it's famously known that the CRPGs, the Baldur's Gate, Neverwinter Nights, etc., were a major element in bringing that kind of RPG to the mainstream, because it streamlines out, the monster manuals, the rule sets, and again, just that setup that you need to play these games traditionally.
Yeah, and erasing and writing stats and going through your head and figuring out all the different permutations of skills you can learn and all that cool stuff. I love doing it both ways, so it's certainly easier for a computer to do it for you.
I mean, I'm still just reading this Warhammer page. Again, as someone who's brand new to this stuff, this is just a world, a completely different language to me. Just looking at all the stuff they have for sale. Oh, I can see why Games Workshop is rolling in the money right now with all this stuff. Oh my goodness. I think I can pretty much say with certainty that this will be one market I'm going to be keeping out of, because I'm already broke as it is. This would push me into triple bankruptcy if I ever attempted to start doing this stuff. Unless Warhammer would Games Workshop would like to send me free stuff, but then I run into the problem. All of a sudden I'll wake up and there'll be a gigantic box on my front door going how the hell am I going to do all this?
Yeah, it's a pain if you're not totally dedicated to that life.
But it's kind of getting back to with VR and such. I guess that takes me to another good question for you, Rob. As we know, 2017 is going to be kind of the year of VR. This will be the first time in just about 2 decades, really, that there will be an actual VR market for the entire year. Obviously, we have the Oculus Rift, the Vive, Google's thing, and of course all the other Kickstarted and crowdfunded based technologies. So I'm pretty sure I asked you this question before, Rob, but for today's topic, what do you make of VR, and what do you think is going to? Do you think there'll be anything interesting happening in that VR space over the next year?
Well, I mean, I'm one of those people who am old enough to, and I'm guessing you remember this as well, was the big VR hype when Lawnmower Man came out in the 90s. Yes. And that really, captured my imaginations. It did a lot of people, but the technology just wasn't anywhere close to where they showed it off on the screen. Yeah. So there was a giant push for it back then, but now that it's a reality, I have a lot of questions about it, and I've always had a lot of questions about it, mostly because it's one of those game systems that it's going to be really hard to play with anybody else in the room. So you eliminate any kind of local multiplayer and just online multiplayer, but the fact that you're immersing yourself almost completely in another environment, both visually and with audio, is kind of mind-blowing, and I can't wait to do it myself. And one of the things I'm strangely looking most forward to is just watching movies in that environment, because you can watch on the biggest screen in the world, and you're not even... You can be in your bathroom, for God's sake.
The applications outside of video games have been very fascinating to look at. I mean, I've talked to a few developers in the past, about augmented reality, again, simulators for any number of applications. So it'll definitely be interesting on that front. Are there any like games like specifically that you're interested in playing in VR?
Well, that's a tough one. I'm really looking forward to the abstract games that are going to come out, because there is limitless potential in virtual reality, and books like Ready Player One only seem to touch on the potential there. The fact is, you can remove ground, you can remove physics, you can just change anything in any way you want. And the games that are going to come out that are going to be super interesting for me are going to be super abstract and are just kind of going to blow my mind with people's imaginations. But I feel like the popular ones are going to wind up being the first-person shooters, because you're just more in that environment.
Yeah, definitely. I know there's been a few already in terms of like just like practicing. I know there's like a gun range or a firing range kind of VR game from a few months ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess for me, like again, like I'm limited in space, so there's not a lot that I can really do, like setting up like a full VR thing like right around here. So my friend, of course, Ken, like I keep saying, he's the VR guy. He's the whenever I have a VR question, I just turn to him. Like he's the one who fully believes in it, kind of thing. So I'm definitely curious. Like I've been wanting to get him back on either the cast or the live stream just to catch up and see what he thinks about VR, because I know he's that guy who's been looking at this, morning, noon, and night kind of thing. He's been following it.
Yeah, and I gotta say, the other genre that really has me wondering and like very hesitant.
Uh-oh. I think we just lost Rob again. Maybe that's the tow truck guy showing up. So while we wait for Rob to hopefully get back, how are you guys doing tonight? Oh boy, between the oh my goodness, this has been the week. It's not even Friday the 13th, and we're already having all kinds of bad luck for this one week. Well, things were good for the last 2 weeks, so I suppose I was due for a good, kick in the butt there. While we hopefully wait for Rob to get back, and going back to, I guess, this whole tabletop genre, I'm going to be doing a podcast, hopefully, this week with a developer who's been doing, tabletop and board games, so I'm going to hopefully be picking his brain about the market and the genre. I'm still, while Rob's been talking, you probably notice I'm staring at my screen. I'm just really looking at this game's workshop. Because I'll be honest, I have never really been on it until right now when we were talking about tabletop games. And it is just fascinating to just stare at the stuff. Knowing that I will never, ever, ever have the money to afford it. Tabletop Darkest Dungeon.
Hey, I apologize again. It looks like I'm going to be winding up pretty soon. That was the driver. He's on his way. So, but what I was saying before I dropped, and I apologize if this talks over or this steps over anything you were discussing while I was gone. But I was saying about the horror genre for virtual reality is going to be incredibly interesting. I feel like the reactions that people have while playing the game is going to make for a lot of interesting YouTube fodder. And I actually think that YouTube, pranks with VR, is going to be a huge little bubble that comes out.
Oh, yes. I think there's always been, little joke videos out, people, messing with people wearing the VR helmet.
Yeah.
Oh, man, yeah. My senses, my spider senses tingling that I can bet that Scott Cawthon, the guy who made Five Nights at Freddy's, is probably really excited about VR right there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to put someone in the hospital, I bet, with something like that.
Yeah, you're going to get a lot of heart attack stuff. Oh, it's going to be an interesting landscape to kind of feel out.
Yeah, El Gordo and Chad saying VR walking simulators, Gone Home, Dear Esther. I bet you could certainly do some museum trips in VR.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think that would be very cool. Even if if Disney decided to come out and just do a whole Disneyland VR.
Oh.
Like that would be huge.
Mm-hmm. I don't even want to think of how much that's going to cost, though, at Disneyland. You'll be walking around the park on a pop-up saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, we need a ticket here. Please insert $4 or something like that."
Wait in line for an hour, or pay an extra $5 for the fast pass.
$5? I'm thinking like $20 or $30, and they could probably do that too. Or spend 5 minutes riding the monorail. Oh yeah, El Gordo mentioning first-person puzzle games. That would be interesting. I know there's that game from last year. If you stop talking, everybody explodes, or something like that.
Huh?
Did you hear that one?
Oh, I think I might have seen that at like an Indiecade or maybe GDC. I do recall that. I never played it. It sounded interesting. I should have played it.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact name of it, but what it was is you have one person reading essentially a bomb disposal manual, and the other person has to do it. There it is. Thank you, El Gordo. Keep talking and nobody dies. That would definitely be another game or keep talking and nobody explodes. There it is. That would definitely be one that would pretty much fit with VR. I think it does have VR support, or must have it by now.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That would be a whole lot of fun. And another game that pretty much, I'm sure, that would ruin friendships easily. Let's see, any other comments? Yeah, like we could see VR idle clickers. That would be good. You could just be doing like putting your hand up, going like this. You can't see it up. I'm just like going like the clicking motion for like 45 minutes at a time.
Yeah, just smack a cow for 100 times.
And you're like found. Go, what the hell are you doing? I'm making progress. Go away.
Exactly.
Oh, and of course, Goro mentioned, of course, very explicit games. I know there's certainly an interest in VR and things along that front as well. I know there's been talks.
Yeah, actually, when I was at E3, that was probably the most, the strangest thing I've ever seen at E3. And E3 is weird enough, but in the back corner, there was a lot of people gathered around one of the booths, and it was a porn website had a booth there talking about their VR products that were coming out.
Goodness. And
I had never seen anything like that at a games convention, but hey, there's a first for everything.
Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah, that definitely would have had to be on the first thing on a lot of people's mind when we first started thinking of VR there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's probably a topic we don't want to delve too far into right now, of course. But I think everyone watching knows what we are referring to there. But let's get back to... we can certainly get back to miniatures and tabletops. Not that Kingdom Death game, because that's also explicit, but we don't want to get too far into that. But... let me check our time. Yeah, we're about 42 minutes, probably a little over half an hour in, considering we had the 5 minutes of just keeping the chat on and then the interruptions. I figure we could probably end things in like the next 5 or 10 minutes if that works for you.
Oh, that should be perfect. I know I don't have much time beyond that anyway.
All right. Let me see. Anything else going on? Oh, yeah. In terms of games we've been playing, I've been trying out a game that's not even out yet. I have to make sure that I'm actually allowed to mention it. So while I quickly check that email, have you been playing any new interesting games, Rob?
Really, I gotta say the one that I've been into the most was Planet Coaster. I know I've been playing a couple other things since then, but that's the only one that I'm really excited about. I'm a big theme park sim fan, and that game has just kind of captured my imagination and all the crazy things you can do. Frontier really kind of pushed the envelope on that particular genre of games. And then lately I've been getting into like ASCII-based roguelikes. So there's two completely separate ends of the spectrum in terms of technology. It looks like my quote ride is here.
Okay.
So I should probably jump off for the moment, and I guess until next time.
All right, Roblin. I'll just go over the games that I've been playing and kind of like wrap up things on this end. But thanks a lot for coming on. I'm kind of sorry we kind of got you right when you ran out of gas, but hopefully next time we talk, whether it's live or recorded, you'll be in the comfort of your own home or at Indie Voyage.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, well, I'll let you go, and thanks again for having me on. I have fun every time I'm on.
All right, no problem. Like I said, this will probably be up tomorrow if you want, link it and all that stuff. And otherwise, yeah, keep in touch.
Will do. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, see you later.
All right, bye.
Bye. All right, now that Rob's gone, we can, of course, make fun of him if anyone wants to say anything. But if he's watching this recorded, we're just kidding. But I guess for me, in terms of some interesting news, I'm actually got a press copy of Yakuza 0 for the PS4. I had to check the email and make sure that I'm not under NDA to mention that I'm playing that. And it's kind of interesting. I can't say too much about it, at least not until the NDA runs out, which... yeah, I can't talk anything impressions-wise, at least until... about another week or so, but it's kind of interesting to play that game. I played the first Yakuza game, wow, I don't even remember when I played it, but the Yakuza series has always been considered the spiritual successor to Shenmue. And it's kind of interesting, like, it feels almost like a JRPG, except instead of turn-based battles, it's beat-em-up action gameplay. But it feels very much like an RPG on that front, especially in terms of pacing and the story they're trying to build up. One other thing that I love about like the Yakuza games, just watching them, is like for those of you who haven't played them, you have like you fight in like regular environments, so you'll be on the streets, in an office, on the roof, whatever, and you can pick up anything around you as a weapon. And then if you have enough of like your special meter, you use a special attack with whatever weapon, with whatever you have in your hand. So if you're holding a bicycle, you'll use a special attack by hitting the guy with it, holding a trash can, a book, box of nails, a plunger. I bet if there's one in the game, you could do a special move with that. And it's all, like over the top craziness. But unfortunately, until the NDA runs out, I will probably stream, or I will certainly be recording a video on it when that goes out. But I definitely want to save my time talking about that one then. Other than that, I've been, of course, playing Momodora, oh my god, Momodora, there we go. And I decided to do a quick Let's Break of it on Insane Run. And the first part of that will be up tomorrow. But for those of you wondering if it's going to be like a 30-part episode, it's probably not. I've already recorded parts 1 and 2, which is about an hour long, and I'm already about 60-70% of the way done the game. And if things go accordingly, I may be able to get that done in one more solid sit-down. From chat, RE7 on PS4 or PC, I did put in the request for the PS4 version, simply because I don't think my computer can handle AAA current gen games at the moment, especially with trying to stream it. And I figure that'll be more PS4 coverage I can do as well. But yeah, I put in the request, so fingers crossed that I can get it. If I do, you can bet I will be playing RE7. I almost said RE4. I was looking at RE7 PS4. My mind kind of skipped a line there. But yeah, I'm definitely excited about that one. I'm trying to think if there's any other good games or interesting games coming out. Again, I keep saying for every like indie game or game that I mention, there's a few dozen that I'm either forgetting or I've never heard of. So for those of you watching this, either live or recorded, if you have any requests or know of any great games coming out soon, let me know in the comments. Momodora was suggested, I believe, last Thursday. I think that was last Thursday for the yearly recap. And that's when I decided to pick it up. Capcom says it's going to be hard. I bet it is. It'll be, again, I'm kind of curious to see if we really are going to go back to like that old school challenging survival horror game. I know the demo and the full version are going to be like completely different things in terms of what they expect out of you. So definitely going to be excited about that one, but we'll see. But yeah, as I was saying, any games you like to see or any ones that are coming out, please let me know. And for any developers who are watching this who are working on games, if you would like me to take a look at the game either for a spotlight or a written piece, feel free to get in touch with me, Josh at game-wisdom.com. Send me a message, anything like that. I also finished Owlboy over the 2-week holiday break, and I think I'll have a review up for that most likely next week. I hate to say, before a 10-year game, I wasn't completely impressed with it. It looked really good, the animation is fantastic, but the gameplay just kind of never really soared, I guess, for a pun there. Yeah, running from HP sponges. Stealth and horror is one of the things that's just very hard to get right. For those of you who've liked the horror genre, I'm curious, what was the general reaction behind the game Haunting Ground for the PlayStation 2? Did I ever buy that game? I'm honestly not sure if I ever bought Haunting Ground. I know I bought Rule of Rose, which is sort of like my go-to for esoteric or out there horror games, but I don't remember if I bought Haunting Ground. Yeah, I know, Gordo, about it's too long in development for Owlboy for it to be groundbreaking. That's kind of the risk you run whenever you're going for multi-year projects. The other good example, of course, I hate to say, was A Valley Without Wind, but Chris talked about in one of the post-mortems we chat about that they just spend way too long on that game and they put too much into it for it to kind of make back what they did. Let me see. What are we at right now? Probably could wrap things up in the next few minutes unless there's any other comments. I guess again, I am just, wow, I'm really just like shocked here just looking at this whole figurine market for the Warhammer stuff. I mean, it looks very impressive, but my God. A part of me wants to know, but at the same time, I don't want to know, like, the kind of money people are putting into it. Whew. That will be one thing. For those of you wondering, like, if there's anything that I won't be getting into on Game Wisdom or on the YouTube channel, I think tabletop will probably be one of those that we won't be seeing too much coverage on. Now, of course, if anyone is able to send like a press copy for something like that, I'll be more than happy to take a look at it. I'll probably have to bring up like a mini table as kind of like my emergency. But yeah, that will be one thing in terms of just putting money out for that. It's way too high. I mean, I still have to at some point afford new computer parts, so that's not happening anytime soon. Let me see. Other than that, I think we will wrap things up for this week. Like I said, this has been kind of the bad luck week between power going out. At least it's stopped. No, it's still snowing. Power going out, fire alarms, Rob getting trapped on the highway, which again, this sounds like the perfect start for a horror movie. And maybe he can pitch that for his next game. Hopefully next week will certainly be better as, again, everyone is leaving holiday mode. So hopefully I can get some more responses regarding those presentations I'm going to be giving in 2017. And like I said, I will be giving you guys updates when I get confirmations. But otherwise, we'll end things here. I think for tonight's stream, what I'm going to do is something a little bit more interesting. I'm going to speed run the rest of Bloodborne New Game Plus so I can say that I've gotten a platinum trophy. And that way that'll be the tying the ribbon or tying the bow on Bloodborne. I can finally take the game out of my PS4 and move on to something else. Which is pretty perfect because hopefully I'll get that press copy of RE7 and of course Yakuza 0 too. But yeah, look for that. I'll probably start that stream in like the next 20 or 30 minutes or so if you're watching this live. Again, for those of you who are enjoying these videos, thank you so much. If you're a first timer, be sure to like and subscribe and all that. Be sure to check back daily for content on Twitch, YouTube, and of course GameWisdom.com, where we examine the art and science of games. Otherwise, this has been another week of Game Wisdom Live. Be sure to check back most nights Thursday. Oh, let me see. Check guys. Well, maybe I will look into Anti-Birth at some point. But like I said, be sure to check back most weeks. Thursday around usually like 7:38 EST. We just had this delay and all kinds of stuff for tonight. But otherwise, thanks again for watching. I will catch you all tomorrow, probably with another critical thought, and I'll see you all live next week. For this week's podcast, I believe this will be my interview with Fail Better Games, if I remember right, but I'll see once I start editing it tonight. But otherwise, thanks again for watching, and like I said, for you stream folks, be sure to check back in a few minutes, and for you record guys, see you all next time. Take care. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoy it, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and of course share with your friends. It always helps out. For daily posts on all manner of game design and industry topics, check out game-wisdom.com. To support the site and everything that I do, be sure to check out the Patreon campaign. If we can hit goals, it will mean more content for everyone to enjoy, and I'll be able to support myself and my household. If you want to follow me, you can find me on Twitter at GWBycer for updates throughout the day and random thoughts from me. And lastly, you can find me on Twitch right over there at GWBycer for daily streams most nights around 10 Eastern. Thanks again for watching the video, and be sure to check out more great content coming to the Game Wisdom channel real soon.